Hi everybody. I know it's been a while, but I've just had a really nice break. I've had the past week off of work, and I was initially planning on spending the holiday with playing lots and lots of poker, but I ended up doing the exact opposite and just being extremely lazy and putting everything off for a good week, which honestly felt really good. I needed that, and yeah. So I'm sorry it took me so long to get the next 1,000 hands done. But I'm still enjoying the game, and I still did play. So here we go. Um, Following a comment on one of my previous videos, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different this time, and instead of going over uh, generally the four biggest pots, because that's what I've been doing in the past videos, just going over the four biggest pots. Some of them are like kind of automatic, right? Some of them are like aces versus kings, all in pre, or like ace king off, big blind versus button, like just very, very standard stuff. And fair play to the comment, it's not as interesting as maybe a smaller pot, but had more complicated Decisions. So I'll be keeping that in mind. I do have four big pots, and let's go through them. Okay, this one we've got pocket sevens. We open. We get a call, and we get a 3-bet from the big blind, who is playing very aggressive in the first 21 hands. He's a short stack, so it's likely going to be a fish that's just being really aggressive. We have a pretty easy flat, in my opinion, in position, taking this in a 3-bet pot. Sorry, in a 3-bet pot, heads up because this guy folded with a nice pocket pair. The flop comes ace king 8, and he decides to check. If you've been following me for a while, you know that this board is a board I would definitely c-bet 100% on if I was in this player's shoes, because our 3-bet range smashes this. However, he's checked. I don't really know what to make of this check, right? He could be doing this with weak aces. He could be doing it with king x. He could be doing it with aces and kings. It doesn't really matter. We will never know what his strategy is. I'm not even going to bother trying to counter it. All I know is that I've got sevens, which best serves as a check on this board. So we check. We turn a 7, which is absolutely fantastic, and we get a bet for half pot. Because he still has the range advantage on this board, I don't believe there's any merit in raising, so I will call and keep my hand fairly disguised. The river's an ace, and he decides to check, and we've obviously got a very nice jam. So we jam, get called, and he does have ace-2 of diamonds. So pretty fairly played by him. Pretty well. I would probably do, apart from the flop check, I would probably do a lot of the same stuff he did if I managed to find the 3-bet pre. Okay, let's look at this one. So we've got aces. This isn't just an all-in pre, this actually has a really interesting decision. So we've got a limp, an isolation, and we 3-bet. Everyone folds, including the limper, and the original raiser calls. So we're heads up to a flop of 5-3-2. He checks. This is a board, well, I keep saying this is a board, but in 3-bet pots, I will always c-bet a third pot, 100%. It's a very vast generalization, but it simplifies your strategy so much. Like when you're playing a lot of hands, in any 3-bet pot, you always have the range advantage on pretty much every board. There'll be a couple of boards where you don't have the range advantage, and your opponent's being maybe a bit looser than usual. So like on middling boards, you might not have the range advantage. But on boards like this, you will have the range advantage purely because you have a you've got a fairly narrow and strong range, which consists of a lot of overpairs, and he will have a fairly narrow, condensed, and capped range, which will also have overpairs, but not aces, kings, queens, right? And he'll also have a lot of offsuit, he'll have a lot of Broadway that just misses, as will I. But because I have all the better overpairs than he does, we just have the range advantage. So we see bet a third, get called, and the return is an 8 of diamonds. He checks. Now, the pot is $1.03, and he's got 133 left. And I think this is a really interesting decision point. The opponent could have a flush, especially since we do not have the ace of diamonds. He could have the nut flush. It's very possible. At the same time, though, he could have ace queen, ace king, maybe, because some people don't four-bet ace king, with the ace of diamonds, which will certainly call the c-bet on the flop because they've got a gut shot. So ace king with ace of diamonds is also part of his range. So it's kind of one of those spots where, like, my cards mean that he could have the nut flush, but he could also just have more draws. So it's a kind of an even effect, and I decide to go for the jam, which I think is the only size really that you can consider. I did hum and haw about like third pot again or half pot again. 2/3 obviously doesn't make sense because he'll have too little left on the river, and if you're going to go 2/3, you may as well go for all of it. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, and definitely worth a lot of discussion. If you have any thoughts about that, just leave a comment below, and I'll definitely read about it. Anyway, we do get tank called. I remember it was a tank call in real time by ace jack off, so this is kind of a loose peel pre, and he does have the ace of diamonds, and unfortunately for us, he makes the flush on the river. When I jam and he has the decision to call, he's obviously not good, but because he needs 36% to make this call, and he has 24%. That's only versus aces. If I had kings without the king of diamonds, then his odds would be increased dramatically because he's got 3 other aces to hit as well. So no, but even then he still doesn't have the right odds. So this is a questionable call anyway. And never mind. I mean, he could also just be losing to a flush, in which case he has even less outs. So it's just a bad call, isn't it? He's probably not doing the maths correctly in his head. Okay, this hand. We've got pocket 10s. Face and open, we 3-bet pot. Everyone folds, the original raiser calls. See a flop of 8-3-2. Face a check. We c-bet 1/3, as I explained in the previous hand why we should do that. And we just get the check jam for like 50 big blinds. And I'm pretty sure that this is a slam dunk call, and I basically snap call in real time. The reason for this is because a lot of people who check jam will have 9s, 10s, jacks, maybe queens if they don't 4-bet that pre. They'll have some flush draws, and they'll also have top pair, like 9-8 suited, 8-7 suited, 10-8 suited, ace-8 suited. They'll also have flush draws. Even though I do have the 10 of hearts, this kind of check jam range is just 10s is far ahead. We need 33%, we're going to have over 50%. Like, it's just a crushing spot. So we snap call. He has ace-9 suited, so he has 44%. And unfortunately for us, he does get there. The last hand that we should consider, which I think I made a mistake in, a pretty big one on the river. I think this is probably the biggest mistake I've made so far. We see, well, we've got queen on off, we open to 4x. This is the weakest queen x I'll open. We get a really good flop, especially considering our villain is really wide pre, so we just bet. I would probably prefer to go larger in hindsight. I just default to betting a 3rd pot in a lot of spots, but because this board hits us so well and he's so wide, I think we should 2/3. Maybe even pot our entire range. Which I can see working. I mean, betting 1/3 also works as well because we do have the range advantage, but I think potting is just even better. He makes the call, we turn the straight, we do the 125% turn bet with our straight, get a call, and the river is the queen, which gives any king x a higher straight than us. Our opponent has 73 cents left, the pot's 88 cents. So the question now is whether to check call our bottom straight, or whether to try and be greedy and go for max value against someone who's quite wide and potentially a station. In real time, I figured that he was enough of a station, because most people in 2NL are quite stationary, to station off with 2 pair, maybe even a top pair. That's not that uncommon to see someone station here with ace 5. And like 8s. And obviously if he has a 9 we chop. But I think that he could just have like a lot of other king X in his range. There's all the king X of spades which he could have. There's like king 10, king jack, king queen. And in real time it's obviously really tough to try and count all the combinations, but I think now in hindsight that there are just too many king X to warrant trying to get value from, because we're just going to value it in ourselves way too much. And I think this value bet that I do end up jamming. It's just a bit thin. Like, it's not horrible if my opponent stations like 2 pair and set and top pair, but yeah, it's like it's not bad. Well, it's not good, but it's not like horrible either. In any case, we do get called by ace king, which is not a hand I'd give him pre, obviously. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, the thing is that he just has a lot of king X here, even without ace king. He'll just have a lot of king X here to defend. All right. So we've seen that we have lost a lot of pots there, and it kind of shows in our results. Not gonna lie, this is the past 1,000 hands. This is the past 1,000 hands, and we managed to lose $7, which is well, $7.50, which is like 3 3/4 buy-in, so 375 big blinds approximately. We went on a 4 buy-in downswing, which is fine. I mean, it will happen obviously, but I'm not happy about it. And when I looked to search for the biggest pots, we didn't win any pots above $2, which is pretty depressing, and a very stark contrast to the last 1,000 hands, the previous video, where we won a whole bunch of pots that were over $2. Well, over $4, but winning over $2. Yeah. If we go back to our entire thing, that's where we left off, and we've just taken a nice little dip, a nice little downswing dip. You've got to have those ups and downs in your poker career. This is just one of them. We do see our big blind per 100 drop to around 10 big blinds per 100, which is obviously a completely fine win rate to have. Also, something interesting to note, that all of those hands that I lost, apart from the last one, well, the middle two, were the ones that I lost due to them calling and just getting there, which actually made our all-in adjusted big blind per 100 spike a little bit higher than our actual BB per 100, which is just, you know, something that if you wanted to be salty over, you could be salty over the big blind per 100. Yep. I'm also just looking at the rake attributed. We've attributed $21 in rake, so definitely high rake environment, which is why you'll see me open to 7 cents instead of like 4 cents or 5 cents, because you just want to try and minimize that. If we did open to 4 cents, 5 cents, we'll be post-flop so much more often, and obviously with post-flop comes rake, so this number would be higher. Anyway, enough rambling. I've really got to try and play the next 1,000 hands, because I know that it's been a while and I'm trying to get back into it. And I will do when I go back to work, because I'll be more of a routine, and just kind of funny that even though I've had a week off, I just barely played any poker, relatively. Well, anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.